For the 26th Sunday of the year, we have readings which focus our attention around change. Change for some people is great. Change for other people is very difficult. It probably depends upon our personality and also on our personal dispositions, something about our family, our culture, etc. But change has to be made at different times as the world changes and as we change as human beings. We have to change. Change for change's sake is not a good thing, but change that actually is of benefit to us is most important, particularly when it comes to moral conversion. So what Jesus does here is, this particular week, he instigates a conversation with the chief priests and elders, the elite, who I like to call the elite. There's plenty of those around. And he says to them, look, the tax collectors and the sinners, they're making their way into the kingdom of God much quicker than you are. John the Baptist came amongst us preaching conversion and they went for it. And then I've come along and amongst you and they have gone for it as well. They've gone for the change to change their lives, whereas you guys, the elite, have not. Those tax collectors and prostitutes are an interesting category of people. They share two things in common, I think. One is they are despised by people, disliked intensely. Saying they're hated by people might be a bit too intense, but nevertheless, they're not liked by anyone. And secondly, their behaviour is somewhat addictive. They've got themselves into patterns of behaviour which are really difficult to break. Prostitutes, obviously, dishonesty with their sexuality, and the tax collectors, dishonesty with money. It was a real common thread in the Roman Empire that those that acted on behalf of the Roman Empire, the tax collectors, would make the most of it, and so they were quite despised. So they change. When they meet Christ, we know that Christ enjoyed their company immensely. We're told in Matthew 9, for instance, a little bit before the gospel we have this particular Sunday, we're told in Gospel 9 that Jesus loved to dine with these people, to eat with them. And they went away as changed people. So they'd encountered John the Baptist, but then Jesus backed it up with a sort of a different type of encounter. And what happened is they had a profound experience of the love of Christ, something that really changed them dramatically. Jesus accepted them, he loved them, and most importantly, he challenged them. So this brings us to what is a very important principle which helps us to change in a moral sense, in a sense of conversion, with ourselves, but also with others. And that is that acceptance is not approval. Jesus' acceptance of the tax collectors and the prostitutes, his love for them, is clearly on display, but he challenges them. He doesn't approve of their behaviour. Recall, if you would, the woman taken in adultery. Jesus shows profound love for her, accepts her, and then says to her at the end of the text, when everyone else has gone away, everyone's had to leave because they know themselves not to be without sin. He's there with her, he's on the ground kneeling, looks up at her, she's standing almost in judgment of Jesus, and Jesus says to her profoundly, "Go away and sin no more." She's had the encounter of acceptance and love, and then she receives the invocation, which seems almost easy because she's encountered the love of Christ. Off she goes to sin no more. So I think these readings here, I think you will agree as you look at them closely, that this whole idea of change, particularly moral change, it depends on this most important principle. That is, acceptance is not necessarily approval.